believe what I just saw?
Ever wonder what happens when one of baseball's most talented sluggers is also its most feared teammate? Not feared for his batting prowess, though that was certainly intimidating, but feared for what might happen if you crossed him in the clubhouse, or said the wrong thing, or looked at him the wrong way. This isn't baseball mythology, this is the documented reality of Albert Belle, one of the most complex and volatile figures to ever grace a major league diamond. Before we dive into the incidents that earned Belle his snapper reputation, let's establish something important. Albert Belle was an offensive force of nature. During the 90s, few batters struck fear into pitchers quite like he did. Between 1991 and 99, Belle averaged 39 home runs and 121 RBIs per season. In 1995, he became the only player in Major League history to hit 50 doubles and 50 home runs in the same season. Cleveland fans adored him. He was a 5-time All-Star, a 5-time Silver Slugger Award winner, and finished in the top 3 in MVP voting 3 times. When he signed with the Chicago White Sox in 1997, his $55 million contract made him the highest-paid player in baseball history at that time. But there was another side to Belle that made him a complicated figure in baseball, one that teammates, journalists, and even fans learned to approach with extreme caution. Albert wasn't always Albert. Born Joey Belle in Shreveport, Louisiana in 1966, he grew up in a middle-class household with supportive parents. His father, a high school baseball and football coach, instilled athletic discipline in Joey and his brothers. By all accounts, Belle was a gifted student, eventually attending Louisiana State University on a baseball scholarship. But even at LSU, signs of Belle's volatile temperament began to emerge. In 1987, he was suspended from the College World Series after an incident with heckling fans. According to contemporaneous reports, Belle charged into the stands after enduring racial taunts, an incident that required intervention from security. After being drafted by Cleveland in 1987, Belle's early career was interrupted when he checked into the Cleveland Clinic in 1990 for alcoholism treatment. It was during this period of recovery that he decided to change his name from Joey to Albert, seemingly as a symbol of his personal reset. When he returned, the newly named Albert Belle emerged as both a tremendous talent and a powder keg of emotion. What was it actually like sharing a clubhouse with Albert Belle? Former teammates have gone on record with remarkably consistent accounts. Cleveland pitcher Bud Black told reporters in 1995 he could flare up at any time, even at friends. You just never knew which Albert would show up on a given day. Belle's nickname in the clubhouse, Snapper, spoke volumes. It referenced his tendency to snap from calm to furious in an instant. Despite this volatility, many teammates also described moments of genuine warmth and compassion with Belle. Former teammate Sandy Alomar Jr. told the Cleveland Plain Dealer in 1996, Albert could be the most enjoyable guy to be around 1 minute, then the next minute, something would set him off. We all learned to just give him space when that happened. This unpredictability created an unusual dynamic. Teammates genuinely valued Belle's offensive production while simultaneously keeping their distance, never quite sure what might set him off. Perhaps no single incident better encapsulates Belle's volatility than his confrontation with NBC reporter Hannah Storm during the '95 World Series. As Cleveland prepared to face Atlanta in Game 3, Storm was conducting routine pre-game interviews in the Cleveland dugout, a standard practice approved by the MLB. According to multiple witnesses and Storm's official complaint to Major League Baseball, Belle unleashed a profanity-laden tirade that lasted approximately 5 minutes. The exact content of Belle's outburst wasn't fully disclosed in official reports, but witnesses described it as extraordinarily vulgar and directed specifically at Storm's gender. NBC executives were reportedly shocked by the intensity of the verbal assault. Storm, a respected broadcasting professional, was visibly shaken by the encounter. She filed a formal complaint with Major League Baseball after the game, noting that the behavior went far beyond the typical tension of a World Series environment. When initially confronted about the incident, Belle offered a peculiar explanation, claiming he had mistaken Storm for CBS reporter Leslie Visser, with whom he'd had previous disagreements. This explanation didn't hold water with MLB officials, especially since Storm and Visser bear little physical resemblance to each other. The fallout was significant. In early 1996, Commissioner Bud Selig imposed a $50,000 fine. At that time, the largest fine ever levied against a player for an off-field incident. Belle also faced the threat of suspension if he didn't accept the fine and undergo intensive anger management counseling. The Cleveland organization issued an apology through their public relations department, though Belle himself initially refused to apologize directly. He later offered a direct apology to Storm before Game 6. On July 15, 1994, at Chicago's Comiskey Park, Belle's reputation took another hit in what would become one of baseball's most bizarre cheating incidents. During a game against the White Sox, Chicago manager Gene Lamont suspected Belle was using a corked bat, an illegal modification that typically makes the bat lighter and allows for increased bat speed. Following proper protocol, Lamont challenged the bat, and umpires confiscated it, locking it in the umpire's dressing room for later examination. What happened next became baseball legend, though the full details weren't publicly confirmed until years later. As the game continued, Cleveland pitcher Jason Grimsley embarked on a mission worthy of a Mission Impossible movie. According to Grimsley's own admission, in 1999, he climbed through the suspended ceiling of the visitors' clubhouse at Comiskey Park with a flashlight in his mouth. He navigated the ceiling crawl space until he was above the umpire's room, removed ceiling tiles, and lowered himself in. Grimsley located Belle's confiscated bat and replaced it with a legal bat belonging to teammate Paul Sorrento. He then reversed his route back to the Cleveland clubhouse, thinking the switch had gone undetected. However, two critical errors foiled the plan. First, debris from the ceiling had fallen onto the floor of the umpire's room, making it obvious someone had entered from above. Second, the replacement bat had Sorrento's name clearly burned into the wood. When umpires discovered the switch, American League President Bobby Brown ordered all of Cleveland's bats confiscated. Upon examination, Belle's original bat was indeed found to be corked, and he received a 7-game suspension. The full story of Grimsley's ceiling crawl remained a clubhouse secret until 1999, when he finally admitted to the entire operation in an interview with the New York Times. The incident has since become one of baseball's most notorious examples of attempted cheating and cover-up. Belle's conflicts weren't limited to the baseball world. On October 31st, 1995, Halloween night, an incident in his Cleveland suburb demonstrated how his volatile temperament extended into his private life. According to court documents and police reports, a group of teenagers came to Belle's house trick-or-treating. When Belle turned them away, saying he didn't have any candy, the teenagers responded by egging his house, a Halloween prank that clearly crossed a line. Belle's reaction, however, was extreme by any standard. He got into his car and pursued the teenagers through residential streets, eventually catching up to them. According to the police report, Belle's vehicle struck one of the teenagers, though not at high speed. No serious injuries were reported, but the teenagers were understandably terrified. Belle was subsequently charged with reckless operation of a motor vehicle. He pleaded no contest and was convicted, receiving a $100 fine. The legal consequences didn't end there, however. In January 1996, the parents of the teenager who was struck filed an $850,000 civil lawsuit against Belle. The case was settled out of court in 1997, with the terms remaining confidential. This incident occurred just weeks after Cleveland's World Series appearance during what should have been the highlight of Belle's career. Instead, it became another chapter in his growing reputation for unpredictable and sometimes threatening behavior. Belle's relationship with the sports media was consistently adversarial throughout his career. Unlike many difficult player-media relationships that involve occasional flare-ups or silent treatment, Belle's approach was often overtly hostile. In 1991, he destroyed a thermostat in Milwaukee's County Stadium after a reporter attempted to interview him following a game. In 1994, he threw a baseball at Sports Illustrated photographer Tony Tomsic, who was taking pictures during batting practice, a normally routine and permitted activity. Cleveland Plain Dealer reporter Sheldon Ocker, who covered the team for years, described Belle as the most difficult player I've ever had to deal with in a 2001 retrospective article. There was no middle ground with Albert, Ocker wrote. He would either completely ignore you as if you didn't exist, or he would explode if he didn't like a question. There was legitimate unease in the press box whenever Albert was having a bad day. Belle's media antagonism came with professional consequences. Despite his impressive statistics, he never won the American League MVP award, finishing second to Mo Vaughn in 1995, in what many baseball analysts considered a surprising vote. Some sports writers have since acknowledged that Belle's treatment of the media likely influenced voting on awards that were determined by the Baseball Writers Association of America. While the public incidents made headlines, it was Belle's behavior within the sanctity of the clubhouse that truly cemented his reputation among fellow players. According to multiple teammates who later went on record, Belle damaged clubhouse facilities on numerous occasions. Former teammate Chad O.J. told Cleveland Magazine in a 2006 interview that Belle once destroyed a water cooler, television, and coffee machine after a tough loss. The rookies would literally hide when Albert was on one of his episodes, O.J. said. It wasn't funny in the moment, it was actually scary. In another documented incident from 1996, Belle confronted a Cleveland clubhouse attendant over the temperature setting in the batting cage. According to witnesses, including then-teammate Kenny Lofton, Belle grabbed the attendant by his uniform shirt and had to be physically separated by teammates. These weren't isolated incidents. Belle's teammate Jim Thome, known for his even-keeled personality, admitted in his 2018 Hall of Fame induction speech that managing clubhouse dynamics with Belle had been challenging. While Thome diplomatically avoided specific details, he acknowledged that the team often functioned as family counselors for each other during Belle's tenure. Perhaps most telling was how teams handled Belle's departures. When he left Cleveland for Chicago after the '96 season, multiple Cleveland players anonymously told the Cleveland Plain Dealer that the clubhouse atmosphere immediately felt lighter and less tense. Similarly, when Belle departed the White Sox for Baltimore after the '98 season, Chicago manager Jerry Manuel acknowledged to the Chicago Tribune that the team would miss his bat tremendously, but perhaps gain something in team chemistry. When Belle signed with the Baltimore Orioles before the 1999 season, his 5-year, $65 million contract came with hopes that a fresh start might mellow his temperament. Initially, there seemed to be reason for optimism, as Belle's first season in Baltimore was relatively incident-free. However, in 2000, the old patterns reemerged. In May of that year, Belle was fined an undisclosed amount by Baltimore for an altercation with first base coach Marv Foley. According to reports in the Baltimore Sun, Belle shouted at Foley over a missed sign, creating a visible confrontation in the dugout. That same season, Belle got into a heated argument with manager Mike Hargrove, the same manager who had previously handled him in Cleveland, over Belle's position in the batting order. Teammates reported that Belle refused to speak to Hargrove for several weeks afterward. Belle's career ended abruptly after the 2000 season when he was diagnosed with degenerative osteoarthritis in his hip. Though only 34 years old, the condition forced his retirement. He collected the remainder of his guaranteed contract while on the disabled list until 2003. Belle's retirement didn't immediately signal a change in his behavioral patterns. In February 2006, he was arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona, after allegedly stalking a former girlfriend. According to police reports, Belle had placed a GPS tracking device on the woman's car. Belle pleaded guilty to stalking charges and was sentenced to 90 days in jail and 5 years of supervised probation. In March 2018, Belle was again arrested in Arizona on charges of indecent exposure and DUI. He was accused of urinating in public and then exposing himself to a father and his 15-year-old daughter who confronted him. While the initial charges were serious, they were later dismissed or reduced. He pleaded guilty to a reduced charge. These post-career incidents suggest that the volatility Belle displayed during his playing days wasn't simply a product of competitive pressure or the baseball environment, but part of a deeper pattern of behavioral issues. It's worth noting that throughout Belle's career and beyond, there has been speculation about potential underlying medical conditions that might have contributed to his behavior. Belle himself has occasionally referenced having been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, though he's never discussed this in detailed interviews. In a rare moment of self-reflection during a brief 2002 interview with The Sporting News, Belle acknowledged, "I know I had anger issues. I know I was difficult. I'm not making excuses, but I wasn't always in control." Mental health awareness in professional sports has evolved significantly since Belle's playing days. In the 1990s, there was far less understanding or acceptance of mental health challenges in professional athletics. Players struggling with conditions like bipolar disorder or intermittent explosive disorder often went undiagnosed or untreated. This context doesn't excuse Belle's behavior, particularly when it veered into intimidation or violence, but it does provide important perspective on the complex factors that may have contributed to his volatility. how do we assess Albert Belle's baseball legacy in light of his behavioral issues? Statistically, his case for Hall of Fame consideration is strong. Over a 12-year career, Belle accumulated 381 home runs, 1,239 RBIs, and a .295 batting average. His .564 slugging percentage ranks among the best in baseball history for players with at least 5,000 plate appearances. From 91 to 99, Belle was unquestionably one of baseball's most feared hitters. His combination of power and average put him in elite company. During this period, only Ken Griffey Jr. and Frank Thomas were comparable offensive forces in the American League. Yet Belle received just 7.7% of votes in his first year of Hall of Fame eligibility and dropped off the ballot entirely after 2 years. This rejection cannot be attributed solely to his statistics, which would typically merit serious consideration. Rather, his behavior and reputation played a significant role in voters' assessments. As baseball historian Jay Jaffe wrote in his 2017 book, The Cooperstown Casebook, Belle's case represents one of the starkest examples of how character considerations have impacted Hall of Fame voting. While other players with personal controversies have eventually gained entry, Belle's volatility and pattern of confrontations created a reputation that his statistics couldn't overcome. Albert Belle's story isn't simply one of talent squandered or a career derailed by bad behavior. It's more complex than that. Belle did achieve remarkable success as a baseball player, putting together a decade of offensive production that ranks among the best of his era. He earned over $100 million in salary and secured his place in baseball record books. Yet there's an inescapable sense of what might have been, not just in terms of potential Hall of Fame recognition, but in how Belle might be remembered by the baseball community. Had his tremendous talent been paired with even average temperament, he might today be celebrated as one of the game's great right-handed power hitters. Instead, Belle's legacy remains complicated. Former teammates simultaneously praise his talent and work ethic while acknowledging the fear and tension he created. Fans who cheered his home runs also winced at his off-field headlines. Historians who note his impressive statistics must also account for the volatility that defined his career. Perhaps the most telling perspective comes from Belle himself, who has largely avoided public life since retirement. In one of his rare interviews with Cleveland Magazine in 2007, he offered this assessment. "I know I was difficult. I know I made some mistakes. I wish I could have handled some things differently, but I can't change the past. I played the game hard. I never cheated the fans on the field. That's what I hope people remember." Whether baseball history will grant Belle that wish remains to be seen. What's certain is that his story serves as a compelling reminder that athletic achievement and personal conduct remain inextricably linked in how we ultimately judge the careers of professional athletes. So what do you think? Was Albert Belle truly the most feared teammate in sports history? Or are there others who created even more clubhouse terror? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of baseball's most polarizing players of the 90s, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more untold stories from America's pastime. Thanks for watching.